Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 2nd of November. 2nd of September, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Moton Noah. Got a nice Monday show for you guys today. Nice Labor Day? Monday? Memorial Day. Labor Day. Which one is today? I always get them mixed up. Is today the day that we seize the means of production, or is this the one where we thank the troops? I don't remember which one. It's the day off for a lot of you. Don't got to go into work today. For some of you out there, got to go back to school this week. Some of you already back in school. You parents out there sending your kids off to school regardless. Most of you are not going to be, most of you American listeners at least, not going to have to deal with anything today. Nice day off. Nice barbecue going, possibly. Throw some dogs on there. Got a little bit of football to watch. Got a nice little Florida State game, Boston College to watch. Who did they just get? Who did Boston College? It's Bill O'Brien, right, is who they just hired. And so Michigan State is kind of getting hosed because the first game of the season that we play, it's Tom Herman, like a guy who's, sort of been around the block and has, seen success. And then, so then we go into Annapolis in this upcoming week. Big litmus test against Maryland. We'll talk about all this more in depth in just a second. I don't know who their coach is right now, but it doesn't matter. Maryland is a good team. And then the week after that, right, is Boston College. And then it's like Bill O'Brien. And then we just go right into there's an FCS school in there somewhere. And then it's just right into the teeth of the Big Ten schedule. So, folks, before we jump into all of the college football stuff today, I got to tell you, I learned something about parenting this weekend. Boy, oh boy, when they tell you, and hold on and stay with me. If you're like, I don't care about parenting, hold on. I learned that they're right, and that really it is a position of great sacrifice, and that in some fundamental ways your life is going to change, and you're not going to be able to just stick to the same routine that you've had for literally all of your life. Because like I mentioned to you guys the other day, we had to take our son in for his 4-month checkup, and they gave him another round of vaccinations. Well, 24 hours removed from that, he's still like just kind of feeling yucky. I made the joke as soon as we got back to the car. I was like, fuck, he's probably autistic now. And then we had a soft conspiracy theory that we were like, because you know how like this joke is gonna take too long to land. I really should have just thought of it in a more concise way. Can I give you a different soft conspiracy that is very half-baked, but I was thinking about this the other day? Apple Maps being in cahoots with Big Oil, the Exxon, the Mobiles of the world, to take you on fractionally longer routes than you actually need to go on whenever you use directions. So that way you'll have to gas your shit up a little bit like more routinely. I don't know. It's just soft. I haven't thought about it too much. Then when I was telling Maddie about it, she's like, yeah, people already think that. Oh, okay. Shouldn't have told me that because now I think it's a stupid conspiracy theory. But anyways, let me steer this thing back on the road. Yeah, man, he was just feeling really yucky during this college football Saturday. So and it was just me and him all day. So I'm just kind of having all these games on as background noise. But yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that he's feeling okay. But at the same time, I'm like, it's week 1. I'm like, can you just feel a little bit better? And we just hang out all day. And we just make hot dogs and we just hang out, brother. But no, he wasn't feeling good. So a lot of the games I just kind of had on as background noise. Everything's fine. He's feeling good. And I had made a comment that I was worried that the doctors were going to say that he weighs too much. They didn't say that, but they did say that he's in the 86th percentile for like his weight for relative to his age, which is fine with us. That's fine. He's a good, healthy boy. He's eating a lot. So I don't know. Okay. All right. But let's jump into this college football slate. Oh, and I got to tell you this. And then the other thing that happened. So we're talking to our doctor, and I asked her, I was like, this is a dumb question. I was like, when is he allowed to get the COVID vaccine? Because that's like the only one that I'm kind of worried about. Not him getting the vaccine, but like I'm just worried that he's going to get COVID. And she was like, yeah, it's 6 months you can get it. And I was like, can I ask a follow-up dumb question? I was like, this is just coming to me in real time, and you are a doctor, so you're the person to ask about this instead of me going on Reddit and being like, what can I find about this? I go, so, okay, a couple of years ago, they launched the COVID vaccines. Operation Warp Speed was a success for all intents and purposes. And we have these 3 major vaccines rolling out. And we have Johnson & Johnson, we have Pfizer, and we have Moderna. I go, have we, figured out the science of the vaccine? And, now there's just, one, and we just kind of, combine them all together, and there's just one vaccine now. And she's like, no, we still do Pfizer, and we still do Moderna. She's like, but I don't think anybody does Johnson & Johnson anymore. She's like, at least we don't at this facility. And I was like, yeah, who got Johnson and Johnson? And Maddie looked at me and she's like, oh yeah, like she's like looking at me. So I had to confide in my doctor that I did get the shitty vaccine, and she was kind of laughed at me that I got Johnson and Johnson. And she's like, did you have any side effects? I was like, no, nothing outside of just like I felt kind of yucky and my arm was sore the next day, but like that was basically it. And she's like, okay. So got a little judgment from our son's doctor that I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine all those years ago, which kind of serves me right since I lied about being a doctor so that I could cut the line. And if there's anything that I would, no, it's not a victory lap, so I wouldn't take a victory lap about this. It's also just a weird thing to take a victory lap over that I got vaxxed before most people, but I felt very patriotic that instead of actual medical professionals and healthcare frontline workers getting the vaccine, I was like, no, I need this shit right now so that I can keep playing video games inside, but with a really strong peace of mind. You know what I mean? My mental security was really strong for like a month, and then everybody else started getting it, and I was like, oh yeah, that vaccine, you guys are getting that now? Yeah, I got that like a month ago. Like, oh, it's crazy. But anyway, so the college football slate, it's officially back on the menu, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta be honest, it almost felt as if football wasn't actually back, because the games just like kind of weren't that great. I mean, you saw 4 SEC teams win by like 60 plus points. Auburn won by 70 points, which is brutal because they were, what was Alabama A&M was plus 48.5. And I was like, surely that you got to take the points. You're getting 50 points. You have to take, not a gambling show, by the way, but I was like, you have to take that. It's just interesting when you're that big of a dog and Auburn still wins by 70 points. Okay. Tennessee puts up 69. It's crazy because Tennessee, who did they play? It wasn't Furman. I think that's who like Ole Miss played, who also put up like a damn near 80 burger. Who was it that Tennessee was playing? Chattanooga. You reckon they paid them what? Tennessee probably paid Chattanooga north of 1.5 to play that game, somewhere in the ballpark. That's how this thing goes. And they got to hang 69 on them? Nice. Hell yes, brother. But okay, let's do the Michigan State thing and let's get it out of the way. Shout out to the Oregon State fan who emailed into the program, and maybe about a month ago at this point. And he was like, not that this was the genesis of the email, but one little thing that he put in there was he was like, you're welcome for Aiden Childs and Jonathan Smith and Jack Velling, by the way. Thanks. Thank you for that, honestly. Really just horrible game. Like, it wasn't a very fun game to watch at all. But if you've been around the block with Michigan State these last, 15 years, we play down to these types of opponents, especially in week 1. Like, these games are more often than not like a little bit closer than you want them to be. And even though if you were box score watching this game, you're going to think that like Aiden Childs sucked and that we almost smoked this game. We really didn't. Like, we were pretty much always in control of it. It was just dumb, like week 1 issues. And on the Aiden Childs thing, as a Michigan State fan, with the last few years, how they've gone, it's very refreshing to me to see a quarterback that isn't afraid to throw the ball 30 yards in the air, like on a whim. Like, that's just what he wants to do every other pass play, which is cool, except for when you're just not on the same page with your receivers, like literally at all. And that's something that just kind of irons itself out over time. And it's not like we're expecting this team to, really shoot for the stars this season anyways. I think he's a sophomore. Still 18 years old. So, a year from now, I think he'll be a little bit more refined. And for right now, hey, I'm just happy to be here. We haven't had a quarterback this mobile in the pocket since Drew Stanton, and that was damn near 20 years ago, right? So that part of it's cool too. Connor Cook could get out of the pocket and he could make something happen, but like that wasn't his MO, and that's not like what he did. He just could do it. Aiden Childs wants to run with the football if he has the chance. So that's kind of the difference there. We didn't get to see that much of Jack Velling. I keep saying Jack Velling. That is his first name, right? I maybe just stick to calling him Velling. Is number 12 12ing? Nah, there's nothing there. Didn't get to see too many looks from him in the passing game. It just kind of is what it is. Nate Carter was kind of MIA. I don't know what the fuck's going on with him. Just didn't do anything in this game. And then I would argue that our backup Lynch Adams was the better back in that game. It is what it is. Michigan State, if they're able to rattle off 6 or 7 wins this year, get to a bowl game, I think we're all going to be happy. That's a step in the right direction, especially when the program is as young as it is right now and as fresh-faced as it is more than anything. 66 of these players are new from the transfer portal or from there's new recruits. So there's going to be a learning curve, and it just kind of is what it is. But okay, so we keep looking around the country, and there's some stuff to talk about, folks. copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. We got an email here from Ricky. Now, Ricky, before I read your email, I want to tell everybody something. We started the Coping Hour, not me and Ricky, I just mean, I started the Coping Hour a little under a year ago, exactly for reasons like this. It was for emails like this that I started the show, because of football and what it does to us psychologically when our team loses. This was the point. All right, Ricky, you nailed this without even realizing it. Subject line, my predicament. Ricky, brother, welcome to the show. Hi, Nick, longtime listener, first-time emailer out of Chicago. I've been a University of Florida fan my entire life. This year, we have the undisputed hardest schedule in college football. Number 1, Georgia. Number 4, Texas. Number 6, Ole Miss. 8 out of the 12 opponents currently in the top 20. I'm sending this email after losing 41-17 to number 19, Miami. We were terrible last season, and it looks like nothing has changed. By the end of the season, I had mentally punted and would hardly tune into games. There's nothing quite like losing your first game of the college football season. Your odds at any playoff/championship contention are basically shot, and it takes a certain level of passion to keep watching. But I feel strangely conflicted about the rest of the season. The brutal rankings in the schedule set up a big psychological wall to cope behind that isn't presented in a league like the NFL. And each ranked game has the potential to be a really meaningful win. I'm happily married and have only been with one woman, but is this what a toxic relationship feels like? I get taken to cool and memorable places, but the cost falls entirely on me. I love them, but it's not reciprocated. I stay along for the ride in hopes that they might decide to put in an effort at some random point. Am I letting my team get away with this impossible schedule strategy? Best, Ricky. Brother, you hit the nail right on the head with the toxic relationship thing, but I really don't want to enable you in this. Your theory's not bad, right? Because I don't think it's an issue with personnel in Florida. Billy Napier is just a bad coach. Like, he's just a horrible coach. Also, the vibes in the swamp on Saturday were bad, like really, really bad. And especially for it being a home opener, first game of the season against an in-state rival. I don't know if really Florida and Miami, I guess I don't know what the history is there, if we're really calling it a rivalry, but like technically, yes, it is, right? You just, Tim Tebow's there, and then who else was there? I'm blanking on who else they had there, but like alum are there. Like, it's a big moment, and like the vibes just kind of sucked. And especially early on, like it was a game for a little bit. Like, we thought maybe, and this just kind of wasn't there. And I think it's because of how beaten down Florida has been, especially in these last couple of years under Billy Napier, right? But yes, it is a toxic relationship, but this is just kind of what we go through as football fans, right? It's the same thing with college football as it is with the NFL. You have so few chances. You have one chance every single week to get that W, and when you lose, it carries the whole week. If you lose on Sunday, or you lose in this case on Saturday, you basically have to wait until like next Wednesday, like the following Wednesday, maybe Thursday, before you can even like listen to your favorite podcast, consume whatever media where they might mention the fact that your team lost. God forbid it was an embarrassing fashion, right? Until the next week's like cycle starts and they start doing game previews for the following week, and then you can kind of like sink back into it. And then guess what? By the time next game day rolls around, whether it be Saturday or whether it be Sunday, you are right back in the driver's seat, hoping that they're going to change. And they'll tell you every single year at media day, oh, baby, this year it's going to be different. We worked on this and we worked on this. And then they show you something completely different. The product that they deliver is not what they promised. But then guess what? The next year, after that 5-7 season, after your team went like fucking 4-12, well, I guess now in the NFL, 4-13, you're still right back. You have so few chances. And it's with this year with college football, again, not to enable you, because I'm not going to push you to break up with the University of Florida, but like, how many of these types of games can you afford to lose? Because that one was tough. That one was really, really tough. Cam Ward spends the first half throwing across his body, and there was like actual consequence for that, by the way. Cam Ward, for all intents and purposes, was one of the better quarterbacks in the country last year that you just didn't hear that much from, because he was playing in a conference that was absolutely loaded with studs at quarterback. You had Bo Nix, you had Michael Penix, you had Caleb Williams, you had Cam Rising, you had DJ Uiagalelei wasn't bad at Oregon State last year, but he was definitely in the lower tier. Like, it was a packed conference for good quarterbacks, and Cam Ward kind of like fell to the wayside. By the way, even Graham Mertz for Florida like wasn't bad last year. He just falls into that archetype of quarterbacks that I talk about all the time. People make fun of J.J. McCarthy, and they make fun of Brock Purdy for being a yak merchant. All they are is a point guard. Their job is to do these. It's getting the ball to your playmakers in space, right? You're not going to get a lot of air yards on your passes, but like it's efficient at the end of the day. So like he wasn't bad last year. And even this year, you saw him in that first quarter. He has that scramble out of the pocket and he has an easy first down. He should have just stepped out of bounds, but he wanted to lower his shoulder into the DB. Now, as a fan, that's incredibly endearing. That's kind of like exactly what you want to see. But also at the same time, it's like, dog, chill. It's week 1 and we're going to need you. You know, for the Texases of the world, for the Georgias of the world, it's bleak. It's bleak if you're in the SEC. And I feel your pain in some way, right? Because I'm sort of just the opposite of it, where I got to deal with Michigan, who I'm not too sure is that great this year, but maybe we'll talk about that at some point. You know, you have Ohio State, you have Penn State, you got Oregon. Like, we're kind of fighting the same uphill battle here. It's different circumstances, but for all intents and purposes, it's kind of the same. There are 12 teams that can make the playoff this year, though. You don't have to win the SEC. Brother, you might be able to afford to lose 3 games. Now, at this point, hey, you already lost one of them, so you can't afford to smoke too many of them. You figure that you're going to get dropped off by at least one of Georgia and Texas, and maybe one of the other ones could be a competitive game. But, like, the odds are certainly stacked against you when Billy Napier is your coach, right? And then I was like, who is the do I want to try to shoehorn Urban Meyer into this conversation? I don't want to do it. I don't even mean it. Can I tell you the worst thing about Riley Cooper? The worst thing about him is that I liked him at Florida. I loved him because as a dude who also wanted to play football with my hair coming out of the back of my helmet, that dude ruled. That dude ruled. And then he goes to the NFL and he was like, I'm racist. And I was like, shit. Even as like a 12-year-old, I was like, you can't do that, Riley. You can't do that, Riley Cooper. So, brother, I feel your pain. This is an abusive relationship, but this is just what we go through, right? It's easier for the MLB, for the NHL, or the NBA when I would say the same thing. I don't know. With the Premier League, it is, you know, usually you don't get to play that many games in a week, but the season is still so goddamn long that, like, I don't know. Also, with how the standings work, it's just different. It's a different beast. But with the aforementioned American sports, you can tune out for a week and like not really know the difference, and like you'll still understand how good or how bad the team is. You know what I mean? Usually like 1 week isn't going to dictate that much consequence for the entire scope of the season. Where like the NFL, because of how, or just college football, with football, how dialed in you have to be. It also hurts a lot more when you lose these games. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Ricky, I don't know what you're going to do. I like the theory. Is it cope? Yeah, brother, but this is the coping hour. And then we have another college football email. This is one of those pass the mic off to you guys. I don't know if I'm going to have the most insight here. This one comes into us from Ruan. Ruan, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I believe you've emailed into the show before. The odds of there being 2 separate Ruans it feels slim. Subject line, how to get into college football. Ron, welcome to the show. Did I say that yet? Welcome back to the show. Hi, Nick. Hope all is well. I'm a young Irish sports fan who in the last year has become fascinated with college sports in the United States, particularly college football. Since it's something that we just don't really do on this side of the pond. The raw passion that seems to come with college sports is incredible. As well as that, with the advent of Georgia Tech playing Florida State in Dublin, I feel even more compelled to follow the game. With that said, I pose to you 3 questions. 1, what would be the best way to get into college football as a non-fan, in your opinion? 2, if I am to support a team, who would you recommend? I like the look of a team like Ole Miss as sort of a hipster pick, but maybe I'm mistaken. And 3, looking at the slate of games for this Saturday. Well, whoops, sorry about that. Well, we can just do that next week. Looking at the slate of games for this Saturday, which would you recommend watching? All the best. Oh, and then you sent a follow-up where you said, God damn it. I'm assuming you said God damn it because I had already uploaded the Friday episode. Well, brother, we can still... The games didn't end up being that good. The Notre Dame game was, like, from an atmosphere perspective was cool, but, like, Riley Leonard and then Connor Wegman, is that Texas A&M's quarterback? They were just, like, rusty, and, like, it just wasn't that... it was just kind of like a boring week 1 game. But, like, with the flair of a big spectacle game, it was a tune-up week around the country for the fans and the players and coaches alike. So, okay, let's reverse engineer this email. Coming up on this next weekend, the noon kickoff game is Texas in Ann Arbor playing Michigan. That's a top 10 matchup. That's going to be the game of the week. I think the late slate, the ABC game, is Tennessee at North Carolina State, I believe is what it is. That's a good game, but Texas, Michigan, from like a historical perspective, this doesn't happen. These 2 teams do not play. When they do play, it's usually in like a postseason atmosphere. They don't play a home and home. This doesn't happen. It's similar to like Texas and Alabama. Obviously now they play in the same conference, so like it'll happen a lot more. But when they were playing out of conference games, just like a home and home, that was wild. That ruled because it's two collegiate powerhouses historically that you just don't really see cross paths that often. So, when you factor that in, plus the fact that Michigan is the reigning national champions, Texas, for all intents and purposes, I don't know if they're back, folks, but they have some aspirations this year. We'll say that, and they have arguably the best quarterback. They have one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Can't really say the same about Michigan. I don't know what the fuck is. I think Michigan's going to get dropped off in that game. It's one thing to have like the Michigan State kind of like fluky game against Florida Atlantic where you're like, I don't know if you guys are that good, but like this was a survivable game. Michigan's offense is weird. It was weird. It took them like 3.5 quarters to actually get going, and then they had a pick six late in that game to kind of, to increase the lead and make it look like it was actually more of a blowout than it actually was. There was a world like with 10 minutes left in that game where Fresno State was down by like 1%. I just don't know. And then I don't want Quinn Ewers to get like majorly hurt. I don't want that, but I do want Arch Manning to have to take snaps in Ann Arbor just for the spectacle and what is the crowd going to do? What is Gus Johnson going to say, assuming it's him and Joel Klatt on the call, right? Big noon kickoff. That's going to be the game that you're going to want to check out. Now, if you are to support a team, who would I recommend? You say Ole Miss as a hipster pick. If you just mean like aesthetically, I love that because I think pound for pound, Ole Miss has like a top 10 uniform selection in college football. Love the powder blues. Absolutely love those baby blues. And Lane Kiffin is I don't mean best in terms of winning percentage and has he, winning natties and shit like that. Lane Kiffin is the best coach of college football. There's nobody that is funnier than him. Is he kind of like if Greg Popovich never won championships? Is Lane Kiffin Greg Popovich where he's just like a troll? No, that's not it. Shit. There's one in there. Lane Kiffin is, I think, just one of the funniest coaches that has ever coached a sport, period, not even just in football. I like that. Usually when somebody's trying to get into a sport, my advice to them is to just look at who the best is. My advice for people trying to get into baseball this year was just watch the Dodgers, because if you can't enjoy the sport when it's played at its highest level from its best team, which is the Dodgers this season, on Saturday, Shohei, Mookie, Freddie Freeman hit 3 home runs on 3 pitches or 4 pitches, whatever it was, to start the game in the first inning. Shohei's like on the precipice of chasing that 50-50 season, 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. If you've been watching the Dodgers this season and you weren't really into baseball, by now, damn it, I hope you're into baseball. The same way if someone was like, Nick, I really want to get into soccer, root for Manchester City. Right? It's a really scummy thing to do. Don't tell anybody that you're a Man City fan, because they're going to roll your eyes and punch you in the face, because that's really, really corny to just like jump in and root for them. But the way that they play, the way that they execute is just on a level that is fundamentally different. And if you can't enjoy, again, the sport at its highest form, in its most pure form, then it's just not going to be for you. So if I were to do that here, and I was just looking at all of the rosters across the country, I would have to tell you to root for Ohio State, but I'm not a fucking sicko, all right? I'm not going to do that. You're not rooting for Ohio State, okay? You're not doing that. I don't know. Is the Alabama boogeyman dead now that Nick Saban is gone? Are we rooting for Kalen? Is that what we're doing? Kinda. I don't want Alabama's dynasty to be over. I would be kind of crushed because they've been such a pivotal cornerstone of college football for the last 15 years. I don't want them going anywhere. You could do them. Ole Miss is safe. For all intents and purposes. They're slated to have a pretty good year. Jackson Dart, good quarterback, not great quarterback. And they got Lane Kiffin and some of the best uniforms in college football. If you're into it from you like the rowdiness and the atmospheres, the passion that comes with it, look into like who has the craziest stadiums, who has the craziest traditions. Maybe you just want cool uniforms. Go root for Oregon. I don't know what's going on with them this year. They might just be Iowa, like reincarnated Iowa. I don't know what's going on with them. I thought Dylan Gabriel was the Heisman favorite and like they can't score. If you want to watch the media circus, the frenzy, watch Colorado this year. because it's crazy watching those games. They're still bad. They're still not good. Their defense isn't good. Their secondary sucks. But damn it, Shedeur Sanders is really, really good. Travis Hunter is really, really good. Those guys are going to be two of the top 5, top 10 picks in the NFL draft this upcoming spring. So as much as I like to say, like, it's funny when Colorado just kind of falls on their face, I can't lie and say Shedeur's not good and that he's not worthy of a high selection. No one can lie about Travis Hunter. He just is who he is. All with a 4.0, by the way. I guess my thing is, you go into that game against North Dakota State, which, by the way, North Dakota State is not that's not a cakewalk. That is a program. There was a little tidbit in there from Mark Jones, sorry, where he was like, North Dakota State hasn't won a natty since 2021, I think is what he says, and that the school was facing pressure from its donors because they haven't won a championship since 2021? Huh? Like, that's the standard of success. That is the precedent that's set there. That's a tough game for Colorado. That's a bold game to schedule. Doesn't matter if they're a whole division lower than Colorado. But I tell you what, man, they rose to it. But if I'm North Dakota State, or for that matter, any team playing Colorado this year, and I see Travis Hunter is playing all but 2 or 3 snaps in the entire game, I'm running 4 verts on his ass the whole game. What? I'm gassing him. I don't care how well conditioned he is. You are going to run up and down the field the whole game. Also, the guy is like a cyborg. You guys remember a year ago, a couple weeks into the season, takes a brutal hit, lacerates his kidney. He's back on the field like 3 weeks later. I don't care if the laceration was like a centimeter in diameter. How are you back from a lacerated kidney that quickly? You're like, huh? You're like, what? Ole Miss is a good pick. I think you maybe nailed that one. And then the first question, sorry, man, I lost the email here. The best way to get into college football? The video game? That might be an easy way to do it. I mean, how many people out there, I'm sure some of you are this way too. The reason that you're able to kind of get familiar with the NBA, or, like FIFA is a really good one too. For me, I use FIFA as a resource where I'm kind of like, okay, so this guy and this guy. And then when I actually watch the games and there's like some name recognition and they do cool shit, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what he does in the game too. So it's actually kind of realistic. Like, it helps me, right? 2K is the same way. Now, for me, when I was a kid, just like collecting basketball cards was kind of how I got familiar with everybody. I'll never forget the first like major card I got. It was like 2003. And I opened a pack and I got a Reggie Miller card. And my brother was like losing his mind. I didn't know who Reggie Miller was. I was 5. And he was like, oh, you got to hang on to that. He's like, Reggie Miller. Oh my God. And so, that was and then, so that's honest to God how I found out who Reggie Miller was and like what his significance was. College Football 25, brother. If you have the next gen Xbox or a PS5 and $70 to spare, pick up the game. If not, this is kind of where I'm like, I don't know how you just get into it. Because unless you're, born into a fandom, you just sort of have known your whole life, like me. Like, I root for Michigan State. I have family that's gone there. Like, there's that part of it too. I don't have any like financial, not obligation to any of these schools. I mean, I never have. It's all just through like using my family members as vehicles to be able to root for them. I don't know how you get into it other than just like watching the games. I mean, if you don't like football, then you're not going to like it just through virtue of it being an awesome atmosphere. But still, it was a fun weekend, man. I'm happy that it's back. I'm hoping that maybe by next weekend, with that Texas and Michigan game, because I'm going to have juice for that one for sure, that it feels more like football is back. I mean, even to Ruan's point here, the game that was played in Dublin, the Florida State Georgia Tech game was cool, but like week 0 games are just kind of like A year ago we had Florida playing Utah in Utah, right? And that's different because when you do this alternate site game to kick off the season, like last year it was fun because it was Notre Dame versus like Navy, and Notre Dame playing in Dublin is cool because like obviously it's the Fighting Irish. Like there's like something to that. But it's just a different atmosphere, and sure, like, I don't know, like, are we trying to globalize college football? Like, I get when they do it with the NFL, right? They have the Packers and the Eagles going down to Brazil. They play games in England every year at Wembley. Is it at Wembley? Is it? I don't care. And then they play games in Germany. And like, okay, sure, you're trying to globalize the game. I get that. But college football playing in Dublin, why do we do that? I'm kind of asking. Does anybody know why we do that? Because it's just kind of like, meh. And then I kind of caught myself. I'm like, dude, I think you're just waiting for the NFL to come back. I think that's all that it is because I know that I don't have that much to root for in Michigan State this year. I think I'm just like, I know I'm going to be able to root for the Lions. So, Ruan, there's another question for you is like, do you like the NFL? Do you care about the NFL at all? Or is it just more strictly, like you said, a passion thing with college football? Because, brother, we get just as upset when Michigan State loses as the Lions lose, even when they're bad and I'm not supposed to care about them. To the other emailer's point, Ricky, right? It's an abusive relationship that we have with these teams. It's just different. So I got to tell you, man, over the weekend, if you have emailed into the show within the last couple of days, there is it's not just non-zero. There's a close to very good chance that I sent you a couple emails because, eventually once she comes home from work and I'm actually able to like lock into all these games, I just start like hammering beers and I'm just like, yeah, football and like Coors Light, like let's go. And I'm having a really good time. I'm like cooking up some dogs. And then I'm like, oh, let me check out the email. We put out an episode the other day, and that's usually obviously when the emails start to flood in. And dog, I'm just going back and forth with like so many of you guys about nothing at all. I was just hanging out, talking to you guys. I was a little bit sassy to some of you because I forgot that you weren't able to convey my tone over email, and I was a little bit drunk, and so I was just kind of like, whoops. But yeah, I had a fun time talking to you guys over the weekend. So you never know. Whenever you send in an email into the coping hour, there's a chance that we just go back and forth and chop it up for like 40 minutes or like over like a not 6 day span, but like, a couple emails over like a 24-hour span. Hey, man, it happens all the time. So what do you guys say we jump into some other emails that are a little bit more serious? copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. Subject line, underappreciated in the workplace. This one comes into us from Servando. Servando, welcome to the show. Potentially welcome back. It's another one of those situations where I'm like, surely. Anyways, hi, Nick. I work at this tutoring center at my university and recently have been feeling as if people think I'm an idiot. Yes, I try not to take myself too seriously, but I just feel as if no one really sees me. I'm 21 years old and am a junior pursuing a history degree and eventually will get a PhD and later on teach at the college level. I have ambition. I know what I want out of this life, and I know for damn sure that I am capable of getting this thing done. But for some reason, I feel like everyone at work treats me like a joke, like an afterthought. For some more context, I am one of the team leaders at this tutoring center and have worked closely with some professors on helping students. And even got to do some awesome stuff with the writing center to help the students I support. The bosses like my ideas, and I would imagine that they like me given that I was promoted. But a lot of times, I feel as if I am not the one making the joke with them. I feel as if I am the joke. Hell, even my supervisor will sometimes rag on me, talking about me with other tutors as if I am a nuisance. I've gotten offers to do research to be a TA, but I told them no because I had already committed to this tutoring gig. To sum it up, I feel as if no one recognizes me for actually being worthy of the position that I have. I feel like people regard me as one of the... Oh, right, this is when I screened this email, this is the part that I didn't know what you were trying to say. So I'll just speed ahead. I feel underappreciated, and even when I tried to tell someone who I considered a close friend who also works there, and talked about this in depth, I still felt unseen. Do I work here because I like helping students? Yes. Do I enjoy feeling this way? Hell no. Even then, I try to talk to one of my bosses about it. If I try to talk to one of my bosses about it, it will create an awkward atmosphere around me, and Lord knows I don't need that. I just want to feel respected and appreciated for what I do. Is that so much to ask? Servando. Can I say, I got one thing to say up top. This is the only pushback I'm going to give you whatsoever because I don't want to seem like I'm shitting on you, brother, okay? Because we are here to support you. I just got to throw this out there, and I'm not going to pry. I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to leave it, and we're going to move on. It's rare at this level that you just kind of get shit on and bullied for like no reason at all. So I'm just wondering if you came in here, you're 21 years old, pursuing a history degree, you know that eventually you're going to get a PhD. It's clear through reading the email that you are a confident person. Is there any part of you that knows that you came into this a little, hot? And was there any arrogance a little bit? I'm not poking at you. I'm just throwing that out there. Just maybe a self-reflection. Like, did I do very honest self-reflection? Of like, I'm not trying to blame you, but you get what I'm saying here. Like, just check yourself a little bit. But okay, so let's think about this actually. This is tough because in this industry, that you're working in, especially when you get up to, you know, these higher levels that you want to be at. You're going to be dealing with like not just like teachers, like tenured professors, right? These dynamics, I imagine, are only going to get worse, where people are like bigger assholes and like almost more elitist, and like because they have more experience. I don't know, but just based on this, like I just don't really know that that's going to change. And so my other thing is, I guess here's my question for you as a tutor. This is going to sound really dumb, but instead of just, you know, at the risk of sounding like I'm saying just like, hey man, just let the work speak for itself. Do you have like stats on, hey, I'm helping this amount of, you know, X amount of kids. When I took over, the average GPA for these kids was like 2.7. By the next month, they're up to a 3.2 on average. You know, stuff like that, where there's like tangible evidence that you can point to where you're like, these kids are succeeding when I am helping them, regardless of whatever these people think about you, right? And that's where you really just let the results be the results. And that's controlling what you can control. You know what I mean? And then the shitty part about this is like, I just don't know. Because like, even if you like took a different job, don't these dynamics just kind of exist everywhere? You know what I mean? And I don't want to tell you to just like eat shit for a few years and like keep your nose down and, you know, just keep doing honest work, which by the way is what you are doing here. This is really, really good quality work. You're educating the youth. You are creating a better future for your country. That's awesome, brother. That rules. Not feeling like you're adequate enough or feeling like you're stupid. Let me just backpedal on what I said at the beginning. Fuck it. Let's hypothesize that you've done nothing wrong, that you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and these people are picking on you for no reason. Unprovoked. You didn't do anything. You weren't an asshole. You weren't arrogant. You weren't cocky. None of it. They're just like being rude to you. That's a tough environment. And to be honest with you, that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know, dude. But you seem very passionate about this. And there have been plenty of times where I have felt deterred because I haven't felt like I'm good enough or like qualified. I don't think you have an issue with not feeling like you're qualified to be doing this. All right, man, let me just give this a quick little skim through because I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting here. What's a TA? I'd love to know what a TA is. You said people feel like you're regarded as like a lion at a zoo and people just kind of like looking at you. This is such a weird dynamic that happened here. And if you feel like you can't talk to one of your bosses, like I'm just wondering how much you're getting out of this. Because I understand not wanting to fuck up the vibes and knowing that, hey, if I talk to the... But what does that say about your work environment, brother? That if you talk to a higher up about your environment and how it's making you feel, that it's only going to exacerbate the issue? Like, what does that say? Like, just hold a mirror up to your own email and like, you know what I mean? Reverse engineer that one. Because that's crazy. Because are you at a point, like with all due respect, that's fucking nuts. Like, are you at a point where the benefits of seeing these kids succeed outweighs the fact that you're in like a hostile work environment? That's hard, brother. And even if these kids are succeeding and it, you know, it lights up your face, you're 21. You're 21. This is a hard thing to be going through, especially when you're like also going through college. There's still a lot of shit. You're getting a PhD. There's still a lot of school to go after this. And is this just part of it? I know we have teachers that listen to this show. So this is kind of where I turn to you. And like, what was your experience in that? You know, what are the... Because it's weird. I guess I would have thought that all teachers were just kind of like in it together for like the future of the kids. You know, like if you go to the, and maybe this is like too lower level. I mean, if you're doing this at like, you know, universities and shit like that, I'm just thinking like elementary school, middle school, you go to the teacher's lounge, like, is there beef? Like, I thought that everyone was just cool. I didn't it's like, you guys are all doing the same shit. So it's almost just like, are these people projecting? Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm going to pass that one off to all the teachers of the chat. Servando, hopefully I wasn't trying to be too rude to you, brother. But we're rooting for you. And then another one, this one comes into us from Landon. Subject line, post-high school anxiety. We're going to help out the youth ourselves, Servando, okay? You do your part, I'm going to do mine helping out the youth digitally, all right? Landon, welcome to the show, brother. Hey, Nick, I'm Landon, longtime listener and even longer fan of yours, parenthetically since I was in 8th grade, first-time emailer. Jesus. I'm gearing up to graduate high school, and I feel petrified. I am scared for what will happen after. I keep hearing from every angle that I need a plan, college this and college that, scholarships and applications and grades, and it feels like a boulder that I have to carry. I want to make movies, but I am considering doing education as a fallback plan. Maybe you should get in contact with Servando, because I've had so many great examples of, seems like a good guy, I don't know, because I've had so many great examples of teachers connecting with me and changing my life for the better, and I feel that that is something that I would want to do for children in the future. Damn it, Landon, I bet Servando would say the exact same thing. I feel like I'm playing matchmaker here. You guys need to become friends. Talk to Servando. Maybe I'll like CC you guys on each other's emails. I don't know. Let's get back to the email. It's very honorable. Anyways, I want to connect with people and help them realize things about themselves and their full potential, which is something that you have done for me. Ever since I clicked on your 2021 draft lottery reaction video well, thank you for all of this, brother. Thank you very much. I'll speed past this though. Okay. I guess the point of this email is just to get my anxieties out in some way or another, but also to tell you to keep your chin up. You have unknowingly helped me through some very difficult moments while also inspiring me to try and make this world better. Thank you very much for this, brother. So let's focus on you. Let's focus on the issues that you got here. I have told bits and pieces of my timeline on high school and post-high school a lot. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you've heard me tell these stories before, but I have seldom told them in a succinct way and in a very coherent way, sort of from start to finish. So, man, why don't I try to do that here? It is very daunting to be staring down the barrel of graduating high school. And, for those of us who are X amount of years removed from it and you look back and you're like, none of my problems were real back then. All of those problems were dumb. And I was like, but I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, right? Because when you're in high school, it's all that you've known. The education system is all you've known until you're 18 years old. And you have no concept, no perspective of what the quote unquote actual world is like post-education. And so it's very daunting because everybody's breathing down your neck about, college education or, what are you going to do? What's your plan? And it's like, it has to be so structured. You're a kid though. You're still very much a child and you're asking me to plan out the next 4 to 10 years of my life. I don't even know what I want to do this afternoon, brother. What are you talking about? And so that was what was so hard for me, mainly because I just didn't feel adequate at all when I was a junior. And my junior year of high school, a little bit of a self-report here, but brother, I would during lunch sit in the bathroom by myself. I would sit in a stall and wait for my next class to start. Or I would sit in there for 10 minutes and then just roam around the halls by myself. And some of my teachers would see me because I would just be looking down the entire time because I was fucking miserable. My teachers would be like, dude, are you okay? Are you good? And I would always just shrug my shoulders and just kind of keep walking. I had so much genuine respect and appreciation for so many of my teachers, both in middle school and in high school, and I rewarded them with not doing any of their work and disrespecting them unintentionally. And I would tell them all the time, I will never forget, I had my AP psychology teacher my junior year. We had a final, and it was just a little project, and he comes up to me, 5 minutes after he told us all what the final was going to be and what the project was, and, so we're all kind of starting to get some stuff together, and he walks over to my desk, and he was like, are you going to do this? It's okay. He's asking me very genuinely, are you even going to do this? Because if not, I'm just not going to expect it from you. And I remember telling him yes, knowing I had no plans on doing it. And then the day that it was due and I was supposed to turn it in, I just didn't show up because it was the last day of school. And it was I didn't have anything to do for my first few hours. So I just didn't go. I just didn't have to. And then, whatever. And I just didn't do it. I didn't do anything in school because I just didn't feel worthy. So that's why when it was time to start my senior year, it wasn't really a decision for me to drop out of school. It wasn't me weighing pros and cons and what is this going to mean for my future? And what is this going to fuck up? And how will I benefit from this? It was just every day, and grandma, I'm sorry, but this was how I was feeling. Every day that I was in that school, I wanted to I could not stand it. I couldn't be there. And so that's why I just walked up to my mom the day before school started. And I was like, I can't go. I'm not going. And so she told me, you got to get your GED. You got to get your GED. I told her yes, but the truth was I knew I was not going to be held accountable for that, and I was never going to actually have to do it. And guess what? I didn't. And because, to your point here, brother, it's hammered home that without an education, without that piece of paper, you're valueless. Your value is very much tied to that paper. And the paper ceiling in the job market is a real thing. It's dissipated in recent years, especially post-COVID. But for me, 10 years ago, coming out of high school, that was a big deal, was dropping out of high school. Your life was over. Like, you were screwed. And so I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do? Like, go to community college? To be honest with you guys, my plan was to, like, be a cop. Not because of, like, any, but because I just knew that was, like, what is good. Like, I was like, that's what's the right thing to do, is just, like, being a cop. And then, like we talked about in the last episode, I left that bubble that I was living in, and I, like, moved to, like, major cities. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm not a police officer. Fuck these guys. I can't do this. I can't do this. So I ditched that one pretty quick. And then it was just like, so what do I do? You don't have to go to school. Dude, I don't know if you have the means to, live at home for a few years. Just work, save up, figure out what you want to do. Because if you immediately just jump into college and you don't really have a plan, first of all, you're going to burn 2 years anyways with, like, gen eds and just, like, spending a bunch of bullshit money that isn't even real just so that you can start to work on your major. And by then, I mean, even if you went into college right now and you're like, this is what I want to do. I mean, hey, man, you want to be a filmmaker, maybe you go to film school, right? But a lot of people, they go into college and they think they know what they want to do. And then 2 years into it, they switch their major, right? We change our minds all the time. And so I don't think you in 2024 have to be tied to that education. I think it's good. I think it's the responsible thing to do. If you have the means to pay for college, I think that you should go. It will benefit you in the long run. But you don't have to do it anymore, right? And so that's exactly what I did, is just worked for a few years and I stayed at home. Now, to be fair, I wasn't saving any of that money because I didn't have a plan. Even in high school, dude, the reason I was so miserable was because I had no sense of identity whatsoever. Not only did I not know what I wanted to do, I didn't know who I was as a person. I'm, like, wearing women's clothes to school every single day and, like, embarrassing my brother because we're driving there. You know what I mean? I look back on that and I feel horrible, even if, like, that's not something I should feel bad for. I just, like, it just was at the time, I mean, 2014, in the place that I grew up, like, it wasn't, I got made fun of a lot. I got made fun of a lot for that shit. And, like, I don't want to say, like, rightfully so, but, like, I get it. I get where they were coming from, right? But the truth is just, like, all of the people that I listened to, like, musically, that's what they did. All of the men I listened to, they wore women's clothes. They would wear, like, kimonos and shit like that. Everything was floral, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I was emulating. And then beyond that, I didn't have a role model. Like, there wasn't a figure in my life that I looked at and was like, this is structurally what I should be as a man. And who I should be as a person. I didn't have that. I did not have that in my life. And so everything that I looked to for, like, validation or for structure was on, like, the internet. It was on TV. In a lot of ways, that's one of the reasons I still, to this day, swear as much as I do, is because in 2009, all I was doing was watching Bo Burnham and George Carlin and Dane Cook and Daniel Tosh. And all that they showed me was that you can be successful if you're vulgar, if you're violent, and if you have a really refined vocabulary, right? If it worked for them, why can't the same work for me? And so I told myself, like, that's what my path is going to be. But then guess what? You're 20 years old suddenly, and you're like, okay, wait, so I actually am still not really doing anything. So one day I'm working at Hot Topic. I'm an assistant manager at this point, so I'm in the store by myself all the time. It's in an outdoor mall. It's usually completely vacant, especially at the Hot Topic, right? So I'm just kind of playing music all day by myself. And then I see these two guys walk in, and I go walk up to greet them, and I say to myself, fuck, because they were recruiters. They were military recruiters. So I'm like, all right, like, I know the drill. And these guys spend about 45 minutes because no one's coming in the store. It's 11 o'clock on a Monday, right? No one's coming in the store, and they're talking to me for about an hour. Eventually, we exchange phone numbers. I get off of work. I'm on the phone with the Army recruiter just in the car, and I'm, like, kind of giving him the runaround, and eventually he could figure out that even as a 20-year-old, like, because, dog, they saw me, and, like, that's it's blood in the water, right? They're sharks. They see a 20-year-old kid with zero sense of direction, just kind of like being a burnout and like being a loser. And they're like, yeah, this kid needs to join the army. That's how they fucking get you. In an alternate world, they could have gotten me pretty easily. I'm fortunate that I had the presence of mind to be like, dog, you don't want me. Like, I do not fit the description of what you guys are looking for here. Pretty sure that was the line that I used on them. And then they're like, so what do you think that we're looking for here? And I was like, I don't know, people who like want to do shit for their country and people who like want to follow directions. I want to follow directions, just not those kind of directions, brother. That's not what I want to do. And I give them credit because eventually they fucked off. Respectfully, we chopped it up about like the Lions for 10 minutes to end the phone call, and we just kind of went our separate ways. It was really respectful, actually. But that kind of put the fear of God in me because it made me realize that I didn't know what I was doing in life, right? And so eventually that's why I started making content. Because first of all, I wasn't really doing it because I thought it would turn into something. You know, sure, what they say to you if you want to make content is that you do have to post it on like Facebook to like all your family and friends and shit like that. You have to do that, brother. Not just because they're the ones who are going to help springboard you, but because they're the ones who are going to give you the confidence to do it in the first place, right? And that goes with anything. So if you want to be a filmmaker, damn it, brother, take your iPhone, set it to like 4K, 30 frames a second, whatever you got to do. Go make a little short film. Go do whatever you got to do. Show it to your family and friends. They're going to distribute it and they're going to gas you up. Whoever you need to hear it from, make sure they see that so that they can give you that validation that you need. It's hard to feel like you're going into this major unknown. You're going out into the world, man. You're graduating high school. And that's scary. That's scary. Whatever it is that you plan on doing, just know that your journey is not defined by what everybody else does. Your journey is your journey, dude. If you feel like it's in your best interest to go to college, then that's what it is, right? If you have the means to do it, if you want a gun for that scholarship so that you can maybe go to a school of, not of your choice, but I don't know how to fucking articulate this. I'm so disillusioned by the college experience, again, because it just wasn't for me. To this day, I still don't have my GED. I lie on my resume and I say, no, I think I just say that I graduated high school. That's what it is. I just say that I graduated high school in 2016 because that's like when I was supposed to, but I just didn't. I just never got around to it. And what happened to me, man, even though I ended up falling on my face, eventually I made content for a long enough time that a digital media company in California found out who I was, and they hired me, and they brought me out there. Fast forward the timeline, I'm sitting in a chair interviewing Cade Cunningham as a 22-year-old, as a 23-year-old. That felt awesome. I felt like I was on top of the world. And sure, it all came crashing down like a month later, but I did all that on the strength of myself. Nobody else. I didn't need anybody else's help for that. Sure, I got some along the way because I made some good friends, but I only made those friends because I worked my fucking ass off, right? And I don't want to say to you what I said to the other guy, but like, especially because you're a kid and like you don't have to do this. It's okay to eat shit for a few years to figure out who you are as a person and what you actually want to do. Because too often we rush into these decisions, these major life decisions, because it's what you're supposed to do, because it's what everybody else does, because it's what is, being perpetuated around you. You don't have to be pressured or influenced by people if you don't feel like it's what's best for you. You have the agency to make those decisions for yourself, and whatever decision it is, it will be the right one because it's your decision, brother. And that's going to do it for today's show. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to leave a review. If you are listening to this on YouTube, be sure to rate 5 stars. Subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. I am incredibly thankful for the emotional intelligence and vulnerability that you guys are willing to show in these emails. And at the risk of sounding a little bit annoying, this very much is like a safe space for you guys to talk about your grievances with like life. And when you're feeling scared, I'm not batting 100 with the advice that I give. Batting 1,000 rather. I'm not. And a lot of the times, all I can do is offer you my own experiences. And sometimes you guys will send in something really heartfelt. And as badly as I want to read it, I just know I'm not going to be able to contribute anything positively to it. And then suddenly your business is out there, right? And I kind of just went like, man, does anybody have any advice for this guy? Which, by the way, is the other piece of this. You guys fucking crush when I pass the mic to you and I say, can you help this person out with this thing? There's always a handful of you guys out there who will leave a comment. And so if you're ever someone who your email is read and I say that, please give this person some advice if I missed anything down in the comments. You know, give it a day if you don't see anything. Just wait a few days. Check the comments, man. I promise there's something there for you. I promise people just want to help. People just want to be supportive. It's all right to be open. It's all right to be vulnerable. You know, I don't have the strongest emotional intelligence, but what I do know is that I feel a lot of things and I feel them very, very deeply. And I like to talk through them. And I really, really admire that so many of you are willing to do the same thing, because I know it's kind of weird to send in these emails to just some guy, because at the end of the day, that's all that I am. I'm not overly exceptional at anything. I'm perfectly average at all of it. But damn it, I want to talk to you guys. The same way, we've read a lot of emails. It was Servando, right? It was Servando that was doing the tutoring. I just want to help. And this is the only way that I know how to do it. The old Midwestern goodbye. One more time, folks. Hey, thecopinghour.com. Never too late for some late stage coping hour. You know what I mean, folks? Got to sell you guys a little bit. I got to push this merch. My son's got to eat, damn it. Thecopinghour.com is where you can find all of your Coping Hour merchandise. Link will be available in the description wherever it is that you listed to this program. Okay, folks. For real this time. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check, that piece of shit. I don't know how I feel about primary control, as like not as a song, but like as an entity. I think primary control is good. Primary control is a good bot, but I'm losing myself. I don't know what I'm talking about. I will catch you guys in the next one.